Welcome to today's episode of The Heart of the Matter, where we're going to be talking about a very, very topical issue in Nigeria today. It's about unemployment and dealing with that. Scripturally, in 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 10, we're told there's a command that, he that doesn't work shouldn't eat. But is that really apt in Nigeria's situation today? So what's happening in the country? We are in economic dire straits, many people say. We've seen inflation on the rise. We've seen oil prices collapse by over 50%. Government revenues fall also by about 70%. And when you look at the unemployment statistics coming out of the National Bureau of Statistics, today the unemployment rate is about 12.1%, which is approximately 60% much higher than it was a year ago, and equivalent to 4 million people additional on the list of unemployed. Now, Nigeria's total workforce is about 78.5 million people. And these statistics translate into something like 9.5 million people, again, on the unemployment list. And when you look at it from the youth employment perspective, the definition of youth employment, by the way, looking at the National Policy for Development, is people with 18 to 35 years of age out of work. This is a very, very difficult situation. So no surprise that most people will tell you there is no work. But today we have our special guests, Anedge Ekiotenne and Folorunso Aliu, the co-authors of this very interesting book. So the first question I'd like to throw at you is, people are saying there is no work. But scanning this book, it's a book of hope. It's a book that tries to say there is work. Tell us, starting with you, Folorunso, where is this job or these jobs that people say aren't there?
Thank you very much. I'd say these jobs are found in two major areas. One's the one that exists in and people are not even aware of because they don't have the knowledge, the skills, or the ability required. And the other place it exists is actually between the two ears, the ability to create based on the needs of your environment. Mm-hmm. Today, the average Nigerian would complain about the problems, which is okay to some extent. We all need to vent at some point. But it's important to bring whatever problems that is within your peripheral vision and bring it to the core. When problems are within your peripheral vision, somehow it tends to depress. It tends to make you tired and it wears you out. But when you bring it to the core or to the fore, the mind begins to change and say, in reality, what can I do?
I mean, you're basically saying, don't duck the issue, face it head on?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Face the issues. That way you begin to seek knowledge to solve the problem. And the human mind is unbelievably endowed. Mm-hmm. You shock yourself when you bring the problems to the fore. Your brain begins to think actively on how to solve the problem. That way you seek knowledge. From there you move to skills required. And once you get to the place of ability, you flow without having any issues with it. Okay. Now I go back to the first one. We're speaking to a friend of ours about 4 days ago in this same country. Mm-hmm. The company is trying to recruit 200 people. But they're having difficulty finding the right fit. Right now, 200 vacancies available. That they are having to look abroad to see how they can get expatriates in. That means that the expatriate quota would shoot up in the midst of unemployment.
I need to throw this, maybe I'll throw it at Anedge, because you are the co-author of this book. You're telling me that we're looking to export jobs overseas. In fact, I've been watching the American election process, and that's one of the biggest issues. Why are you saying they are struggling to find Nigerians who can do this work? What's the difficulty?
Now, I think the difficulty there is this. He's mentioned very key, factors about knowledge and about skill and ability. Now, I'll take it a bit further and translate that into a simple thing. Every employer is looking for one thing. Every employer that puts out an offer of recruitment is simply looking for solutions. They have a problem and they are looking for a problem solver.
Sure.
Now, the issue is this. You now have to ask the people that are applying for the job, the people that you know, that are being called to come and apply, do they have the expertise to provide the solution? Can they really say they can provide the solution? What value, if you look at the value chain of the employer, in what place can they add value looking at what the issues that the employers are facing? That is where the question arises. So if there is no value that you are bringing, because mind you, an employer is not doing you a favor, neither are you doing the employer a favor. It is simply a question of value exchange. Absolutely. And naturally rewards follow value.
Sure.
So if there is no value being brought, I mean, naturally, the employer will look for where they can get solution that will add value to their system so that they, at the end of the value chain, the output will be
basically, I guess, in summary, what you're saying is, if your main skill is about making tea, don't go and try and fly a jumbo jet.
Oh, absolutely.
But I'm sure our audience will be quite interested. Without naming names, what sector is this particular opportunity in that we're struggling to fill with Nigerians?
Telecoms, actually.
In telecoms.
Yes.
But you know, what surprises me is that we've had a thriving telecom sector now in Nigeria for the last 15 years. Surely Nigerians have learned an awful lot. And one of the things that I'm very proud of, I have to say quite honestly, is that there are many, many Nigerians in the diaspora who have excelled themselves quite well. And not just Nigerians who were born overseas and live there or whatever. Many Nigerians who left here have gone. So I'm generally struggling with a situation that says, you know, we can't do the jobs. Maybe there could be something. Let me explore this. Because half the time when a job advert goes out, the whole world and their uncle, after all, with the kind of statistics we're looking at, they're going to look for the work anyway. But surely there should be some kind of pre-screening process. Should we maybe have employment agencies that help to headhunt or find the right people? Because I can't believe that they're not here in Nigeria.
Okay. The problem is not necessarily that they don't have Nigerians that can do this work.
Yes.
The problem is most Nigerians that can do this work are already gainfully employed.
Okay.
So we have a huge gap of skills required, but the ability to fill the skill space or the vacancy is not really there. That now leads to, uncle, can you help me? Auntie, just give me the job. The issue is matching the skills with the required vacancy.
You know, there's something amazing that's happening even right now, you know, in the midst of all this that we are experiencing now that people don't understand. And I try to bring it, you know, to the consciousness of people that three things always happen during these kind of situations. People get fired, people get retained, and in the midst of all this, people get hired.
Yes.
And I wonder, I mean, are you thinking about it? Why do you think an organization is still hiring when they just fired? You know, it's something happened. A friend of mine, you know, working in one of the biggest oil companies, you know, that we have in this, you know, country, was telling me how they fired a lot of their staff and all whatnot. Somehow she was able to escape it. And when we got into Lagos, we were talking to someone, and the person told us that the person said, you wanted to share good news with the person. And the person said, I just got a job in that same company.
Awesome. Let's pause it there. We're going to go for a break right now. But what's coming at me, screaming loud and clear from both of you, is opportunity. Viewers, stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to today's episode of Heart of the Matter, where we're speaking with our special guests, Folorunso Aliu and Anedge Ekiotenne, about the issue of unemployment. They've written this wonderful book, Vacancy, You're Urgently Needed. And when we went on the break, Anedge was just talking about three critical things. Sometimes you see people get fired, they get retained, and others get recruited. And you talked about some people a bit confused why this happens. I look at it like a conveyor belt where companies are continuously recycling people. The fact is, if you don't have the right skills, you'll push some out and you look to fill them in because it's all about creating value. And I guess, again, this is one of the key motivations behind this book. Aside from opportunity, which clearly from what you've said there is, I'm also hearing the word employability.
Yes.
Is that the problem, Folorunso? Tell us about that.
Thank you very much. I left Lagos about 6 years ago, and before I left Lagos, I thought unemployment was the only problem. But when I did, I began to look into the environment and realized that unemployment is really it's closer to a symptom than being the problem. More of a problem is unemployability.
Explain what that means.
Exactly. The inability to be able to fill the vacancy is unemployability. I could have vacancy for 10 roles, and I have 110 people, and none of them can actually match the requirements for that vacancy on the table. They all should be described as unemployable people.
But for that role.
For that role.
Because it almost sounds like a disease. And
no, it
we don't want people to think that they don't have the ability. They do have.
Oh, they do.
But maybe they're just not suited for that given role.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's the beauty of Nigeria now. Things are bad. But underneath every rubble of sadness, of unemployment, is the ability to adapt and bring value from it. Now, I was doing some study on the etymology of the word education. The Greek etymology is from two root words, and duko. Means to lead forth, and duko means from within. So it means that our education should actually teach you to lead forth solution from within. The solution is not outside there. It's from
you.
Within you. It's seeing connections. When you see the problem, take a look at it properly, actively, ask questions. That way your brain begins to make the right connection, and then you can say, hey, I don't have the skills for this particular problem to solve this particular problem. And then, based on my makeup, my person, I am suited for this problem. And once you go at it, you get to do it much faster, you get to do it better, and you get to do it with finesse that stands you out. So going to school should not be about blending. Going to school should be about discovering the ability to bring out solutions from within.
This brings something that is very important that we talked about in the book, is that going to school is not about getting a certificate, neither is it all about, that's like I said, blending, but going to school actually gets you into what is called learning mode. You actually went to school to learn how to learn.
Okay.
Now, there's a cycle that people break. Of course, where you have the situation where some people that have had jobs, they are fired. I believe that there's a cycle they've broken, because for an organization to be hiring, when they are firing, it simply means that there is a particular skill, expertise, or ability that they're looking for. Now, somebody that they just fired was in that organization, and that person could have stepped up to the plate, but the person broke a cycle, which is a simple cycle we call the learning, earning, and yearning cycle. You start with learning, and then you earn, and then you yearn and learn more. Now, the person learned, earned, and then stopped. So once you stop, what you've done is that you've cut your ability to produce value and to provide immediate and relevant solutions. You may have been producing solutions, but right now, those solutions, can you say with the rate at which information and technology is getting obsolete, can you say you have the expertise for today?
Now, this is important because it's about change.
Yes.
And, there's a statement that has been ascribed to Charles Darwin. Some say he never said it, but it's still very relevant, wherein it says that it's not the strongest species that survive, but those that are most adaptable to change. And what I hear you saying is, ladies and gentlemen, stay current. What was fantastic yesterday may not be what's necessary today or tomorrow.
Very true, because the truth is that no employer pays you for your skill or experience.
Yes.
An employer is only willing to pay you for your experience as long as he or she
adds value in the business.
As long as he or she can use that experience to produce a product or a service today and in the future.
Yes.
So they may have been able to use your experience and skill to produce value today, but what about the future? if you are not yearning and preparing yourself for the future, when things like this happen, you find that you are out and they have to bring in somebody else.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Another thing is, I think it's unfortunate that things are the way they are, but I think it presents a very good opportunity for all of us as Nigerians. You find out that it gets to a stage, if you stay current and you get into that cycle, that you're actually better than any job you take, where the fear of getting fired no longer really occurs to you. That's where we need to get to. We're mindful that not everybody is there. So it's not an indictment on you. But the best time to start something is yesterday. The next best time is now. So it's to start that process. Now, I said we complain a lot, but we need to move things to the fore. People from abroad are looking into this country and are seeing opportunities that we are complaining about. For example, can I give practical example?
Sure.
In the area of fish farming in Nigeria today, I know in Abuja a lot of people are into fish farming. Lagos, I haven't seen too many of that. I'm not saying they don't have, but I haven't seen too many of that. But Lagos consumes a lot more fish than most people. Now, you can actually start fish farming, but I found out that the fish feed is getting more scarce on a daily basis.
Folorunso, it sounds to me like you're talking about reinventing oneself to deal with current and future needs.
Absolutely.
Let's hold it there for a moment because we're going to take a break. Audience, I hope you're finding this really, really interesting and already that you're picking up various and numerous pearls of wisdom and nuggets as well. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back to today's episode of The Heart of the Matter, where we're talking about unemployment in Nigeria using this book, Vacancy, You're Urgently Needed, written by the co-authors, Folorunso and Anedge. Now, just before we went on the break, we were talking about fish farming and people reinventing themselves. Frankly speaking, both of you are a modicum of that particular experience. You happen to run an ICT company, whilst you, Anedge, you are a corporate trainer and a coach. And you guys have co-authored your first book, isn't it?
Thank you.
So you reinvented yourselves into authors while doing your major thing. So it can work. But tell us a bit more about reinvention, whether it's using fish farming or other examples. How can people do this?
Well, thank you. If you don't mind, I'd like to quote something from this book. It's a quote I love so much by Eric Offers. It says, in a time of drastic change, it is the learners who inherit the future. The learned usually find themselves equipped to live in a world that no longer exists. That is the core. I said I took fish farming. You know you can actually do fish farming and still have a 9-to-5 job? Lagos right now, the cost of the average catfish is actually much higher than any other state. That's because it's scarce in Lagos.
Okay.
You can actually start a fish farm. But more importantly, moving up the chain, fish feed is actually scarce as we speak because of foreign exchange scarcity as well. So what stops 4 or 5 people who just lost their jobs and are good friends that had some money paid to them as retirement or payoff for letting them go, come together, do research, learn, and then put it together on a small scale, begin to meet needs. And thereafter, they yearn to make it bigger.
Yes.
Now, that is something that can be started immediately because there is scarcity as we speak. Now, by the time we have Forex abundant again, you would have created a name for yourself, especially if you do it right and you do it well and you don't cut corners.
But actually, I'll tell you the thing here, you know, digressing slightly into the issue of foreign exchange. One of the drivers of our foreign exchange rate is the strength of our trade with the external world. It's about exports. So, frankly speaking, who says we always have to import things into this country? So, and if it's not fish farming, it could be something else. The point is that there is a huge need of goods and services that a lot of Nigerians, and frankly speaking, Nigerians are one of the most entrepreneurial, very, very resilient, hardworking people I've ever seen in the world. You know, one of the things that has come across very strongly from everything you've said, it's in you, leadership from within. And you know, you've also helped us take this to another perspective. That perspective being, it's not just only about employer jobs, as in a company. You can start your own as well.
Absolutely.
All right. I want to also touch one final thing, because of course time is always an issue for us in any program like this. There are various initiatives out there, government-driven initiatives. We know the federal government plan to engage 500,000 people and train them as teachers. There's been talk about paying 5,000 naira a month to I think the lowest or the most affected in society. Even here in Lagos, where we're broadcasting from, we have, I think, the Lagos Employment Trust Fund. Is it government's role to create jobs, or is it somebody else's?
Thank you for that very important question. I think, personally, every human being deserves dignity, and dignity is found in labor. Okay. When you start to create an entitlement mentality, you create room for rent-seeking, you create room for corruption, and you create room for inefficiency. Yes. I'm well aware that there are people that need these monies to survive. But I think rather than giving stipends, can you rather help their person, their humanity, to be creative and let them take ownership of this? Yeah. I would rather you didn't give the 5,000 to them. I would rather you got them together and help them learn and start something that when they begin to produce, they produce more than the 5,000.
So don't give a man fish, teach him how to fish. Okay.
Yes, that way the dignity of their humanity is preserved. Okay. You help them to think that I'm worth something. All right. And in the long run, it's not sustainable. The wage bill for the state and federal workers is huge. What's the percentage of state and federal workers compared to the number of people in Nigeria? That's because when you do that, when government gets into trying to create employment, what you do is the bureaucracy leads to a lot of inefficiencies. Government should create the environment, ensure that it is easy for me to access knowledge. It's easy for me to access finance. It's easy for me to access mentorship. Yes. It's easy for me to do the work because you've not, policies are not too difficult. Yes. You've not put stumbling block on my way to doing the basic things. You're not destroying me with tax from day one of doing this job. Oh, by the way, tax is a very interesting thing which I think Nigerians need to pay, but we need to help to get them to pay.
Well, of course, if you're not in work, if you're not running businesses, there's no income on which to pay taxes.
Government is losing money.
Because of time, I'm going to come to you, Anedge, with one final question which we need to tackle in less than a minute. Education. You talked about employability, but you've given a totally different perspective on employability. But does education have anything to do with it today in Nigeria?
The problem of unemployability cannot be spoken about without referring to our educational system. Sure. It's very, very important because for somebody to be employable, the person must have gone through a system where they have gained knowledge, acquired skills and abilities. But our educational system, I must say, is really nothing to write home about. I remember, back then when I attended a computer class, so the general course, I didn't see one computer. You can imagine that. There was no computer, and all we had to do was write. I was looking for, where's the computer? We were supposed to be doing computer basics. When people are, in quote, getting knowledge, but this knowledge cannot be turn into skill. Because skill, for you to say something has become a skill, that means there is a practicalization, where somebody can really say, yes, I can create something, I can produce something, I can combine things and come up with innovative solutions like we have, in the Western world and all that,
So it's still back to you. I mean, look, whatever handicaps we have, what I've heard both you say is we should stop complaining, look within, lead from within, use all the tools available, reinvent yourself if you need to, but be adaptable to change. As usual, we try and end with a word of scripture just to bring together some of the key messages. And I want to read today from Jeremiah chapter 29, verses 11 to 13. It goes like this: "For I know what I have planned for you, says the Lord. I have plans to prosper you, not to harm you. I have plans to give you a future filled with hope. When you call out to me and come to me in prayer, I will hear your prayers. When you seek me in prayer and worship, you will find me available to you. If you seek me with all your heart and soul, I will make myself available to you, says the Lord." God does have something to do with this as well. He's not going to come down from heaven and do for you what you can do for yourself. And God has given each and every one of us talents and gifts with which we can do so much. And as we've heard from our guests today, Folorunso and Anedge, it comes from within. It really comes from within. Go and have a look at the bookstores. I guess these books are out in the bookstores.
Latana Ventures.
Okay.
TRV, Terra Culture.
Culture. And also Jumia and Konga will probably get information.
And if people want to reach out to you, maybe get you to come and do interviews and talk about the book, how do they get hold of you?
We have our details in there.
The contact detail that you can call and you speak to somebody that you get straight to us. Or you can go to our Facebook, you just put in the name Anedge Ekiotenne, or you put in Folorunso, or you look for Vacancy.
Okay, anyway, those details are now scrolling on our screen. So people can actually see it on the screen now and they can reach out to you. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you very much.
And you to Anedge.
Thank you very much.
Audience, thank you too.
Thank you very much.
Stay blessed until next time.